I would say I followed that path. Like I just was relentlessly not afraid to try and fail. And trust me, I've failed at many things, but I just kept trying new things, and it's there for the taking.
Well, BosBabes fanatics, you heard it straight out of Torey's mouth. Just go for your goals, go for your dreams, and don't be afraid to fail. I think that's an excellent tip and advice, because I feel like so many people were almost like brought up to believe that failing is like a weakness. And in many industries and many careers, like you can't think that way, because if, for example, we're about to talk about Tom Brady shortly. If Tom Brady listened to his coaches when he was younger, that he was too slow, that he wasn't fast enough, that he wasn't strong enough, that he wasn't a good quarterback, if he listened to all that naysaying, he wouldn't be a freaking Super Bowl champion times a million. I think at this point, this guy's going to keep on playing. He wouldn't have all these rings. And pick yourself up, get it together, and just follow those dreams and ask those questions and ask for that advice. So Torey, thank you for sharing all that. With your sports producing, you've been crushing it so far on this podcast. I know you're not probably that used to being in front of the camera right now, so I appreciate you being on here. You're doing a great job.
Always been a behind the lens guy. Never behind the scenes, behind the lens. Definitely not an on camera guy. So yeah, I'm happy to do it though, for sure.
So yes, Torey is crushing it, and I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story, because I think it's an important one for people to listen to. So you started off as a PA, kind of like interning, doing a bunch of projects in the Boston area. What exactly is the thought process behind coming up with new content and ideas for a company such as ESPN Plus? Like, how do you guys say, hey, I want to create a feature project on so-and-so, and we have this amount of time? Like, who like stems the ideas? Is it you? Is it like the higher ups? Is it like the athletes themselves? Like, what is that process like?
I think today's world of this is interesting because, like I just said, I think you have independent filmmakers that have great ideas that bring it to a company and pitch it. You have collaborations where an established filmmaker will have an idea or a relationship with an athlete or with a subject and work together to bring that to a network or shop it to networks. And then there are opportunities to create things internally when, the internal producers and teammates and collaborators are able to kind of formulate a new idea and bring that to the table. And I've been incredibly fortunate in the time that I've been with ESPN to be a part of kind of all three of those things. The beauty of ESPN Plus and ESPN Plus Originals being a part of it now is experiencing that exact thing, to your point. Like, it's kind of whatever the best idea is wins. And there's a lot of really, really talented and smart people behind the scenes that are looking at what we can create to do the next big thing. And, we're relatively young. We're only, I think, 3 or 4 years into the streaming game. And Man in the Arena was definitely kind of the catalyst and the project that had been in the background being made for the last 2 years to release it.
And that's fantastic. And that kind of like segues right into Man in the Arena. I do want to discuss it for the last half of this show. And again, you guys are now listening to Torey Champagne. He's a friend of mine. You guys have already listened to me talk about how we met. We met on a music video set like 8-9 years ago, which is bizarre to even think about. Flash forward, here we are. I happen to be freaking sitting watching Man in the Arena. So here's my little backstory. My fiance Ryan and I we're obviously huge sports fans. You guys know Ryan is a professional baseball player. I myself have a background in competitive reality TV, competing on TV shows on MTV. Ironically enough, I know Torey just mentioned he kind of has some background with MTV as well. But we love watching good sports documentaries. Of course, we're sports fans, and we enjoy great athletic stories. So naturally, of course, we tuned into and binged watched Tom Brady's 10-episode docuseries titled Man in the Arena. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this freaking episode, I was so excited and stunned to see Torey's name pop up in the credits. Like literally to the point, guys, where I had a freaking I was like, babe, back this up. Like, I think that's my friend Torey, but I'm not sure. Maybe there's another Torey Champagne out there. I'm like, can you rewind that? I think that's my friend. Like, this is bizarre. So we went back. I looked at it and I was like, holy cow, like good for him. So I immediately reached out to Torey. I was like, you got to get on the podcast. And I congratulated him right away on such a fantastic project because, again, I've been watching his career unfold for over the last decade now. I'm going to give you guys some backstory on Man in the Arena. That way, if you guys are interested in checking it out, you can. Again, it's called Man in the Arena. It's 10 episodes right now. And if you look on religionofsports.com, it says 10 episodes, 10 Super Bowls. Tom Brady recounts the greatest underdog story ever told. And I actually have a little clip I want to read for you guys. It is from Religion of Sports. That way, again, if you guys are interested, you kind of have a little bit of info about it. On Religion of Sports, it says, how did an unheralded 6th round pick become the most accomplished athlete of his generation? In this 10-part series, Brady and the characters that joined him along the way remember the extraordinary events that led to Brady's 10 Super Bowl appearances. This is Brady as open as he's ever been, sharing not only his personal story, but also the insights he has gathered while maximizing his potential, transforming from a backup into a legend. So, again, guys, amazing docuseries. I fully encourage you guys to go watch it. So with hearing that, Torey, obviously you were working on it firsthand. What was it like working on this docuseries? And you already mentioned that it took about 2 years in the making to get this process going.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, first, the personal aspect of it for me is, we've been talking about it this whole time. Growing up in Massachusetts in Worcester, I was fortunate enough to work with the Patriots and for the Patriots for 2 seasons and be around the team and work at a time when Tom was there. Also working in the Boston sports media, covering him and going to games and being at at Gillette Stadium. I was kind of always around it. So when the opportunity came up when I joined ESPN Plus to be a producer on it, it was just like, wow, what an awesome honor and privilege to work on a project with Tom Brady. I mean, it's just, if you're from New England, like, it's like the dream project. Like, there's nothing else that could be better than that. So when I joined the team and the project was kind of already in process with Religion of Sports and Gotham Chopra, the director, who's, Tom's friend, they have a great relationship. It was pretty exciting to kind of dive in with them and start to understand their vision, Religion of Sports, but also Gotham's vision for the film and the way it would be approached, which I think the thing that I'm most proud about for him and for the process of the project is the creative approach they took to it. It was very, very different than, other really great sports documentaries. It was really about Tom telling you personally from his standpoint, talking directly into camera, and the visual approach and the limited characters and the storylines and the subject matter were really, really, really beautifully orchestrated before they set out to film. So I was excited before cameras ever rolled, as it was discussed and presented, and everybody was kind of, looking at it. I think it took me probably about a month after working on the project to really settle in because I was just so excited.
And thank you for sharing that, because that's kind of like my reaction too. If I was able to work alongside Tom Brady for like a couple of years, I'd be a little bit starstruck at the beginning, but then you're kind of like, all right, this is my day job. I work with athletes all the time. So you probably just like let the excitedness and like the nerves ease down. And I'm sure you obviously you crushed it, because again, I loved the docuseries. Speaking of the docuseries, I know it's 10 episodes, and I know you can't say probably right now if it's going to be 12, but Ryan and I have a little theory going on that we think that it's going to go up to 12 episodes when he actually retires. Obviously, everybody knows TB12 is his brand. He rocks number 12, and it's at, I think, 9 or 10 episodes now. So in theory, Ryan and I have a theory out there. So you guys heard it here first. And I know Torey probably can't say yes or no to this answer if it is correct. But Ryan and I's theory is that when he retires, he's going to do another 2 episodes. I won't let Torey comment on that because he probably can't. So I'll switch on over. But
appreciate it, Britt. You let me off the hook. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I don't want to get you in trouble, but I'm like, that's just my theory. So we'll leave it at that. But
hey, the internet loves good theories. Go for it. There we go.
There we go. So there may or may not be 12 episodes, but that's coming from my mouth. On top of that, I wanted to read Torey's, one of his most recent, it was from April. I really loved this post that he put up on Instagram. It's a photo of Tom Brady. It says "Man in the Arena," and it's basically Torey just giving a shout out to his production team. And it says, "Grateful for all of the brilliant, talented, and dedicated people I've had the privilege of collaborating with over the last 2 years on Man in the Arena. Proud of the work, humbled by the journey, honored to have been part of this incredible project. congrats to all on the release of the final episode of the series for now, LFG, which means let's fucking go. TB, like obviously Tom Brady. We all know that Tom Brady always says the let's go, which gets everybody hyped up. So let's talk a little bit about that Instagram post. Like, what was your mindset while throwing that up there? I got really hyped up by reading it as well.
Look, I'm not a big social media person in general, but I was proud of the moment, but I was really more celebrating the people that I got to work with. I mean, Gotham is an amazing director who, you know, he's also responsible for Muse, which was Kobe Bryant stock. He's just his company, Religion of Sports. I got to be very close with Eric LeDrew, who was the co-director, and Meg Cirillo, who was the executive producer, and just you know, an amazing team of creative people, and also working with Tom Brady's team throughout the entire process. You know, from behind the scenes to make these things a reality. And I think the other thing too was the project was so ambitious as a 10-episode film, basically, but also, you know, we worked on a magazine that commemorated it. I worked with Tom's team in autograph on the NFT collection. We did a podcast that Gotham did. Like, so I worked with so many people for 2 years, and I just, you know, I've been tagged in other posts from some of those teammates and people, and over time, and they've shared things throughout the journey. And I just said, I'll wait till the end. And when it finally was done, I felt like, okay, I can share this now that I've been working on this. I wasn't out, you know, out talking about it or anything, and just wanted to kind of give credit where credit was due to that group of people, because I learned a lot. Like I said, I'm humbled to be a part of it, and it's like the most amazing series that you could be a producer on, and to be trusted, you know, helping shepherd it along. It's really just the creative people that were part of it.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I know you kind of already talked about how different this docuseries was compared to others, specifically having Tom Brady speak to camera and kind of just be very real, raw, and open. I fully enjoyed, and so did Ryan, my fiance. We both fully enjoyed how each episode had its own theme. Each episode had special guests that were significant to each episode. And I'm going to give you guys some of the special guests that he had on there. Again, if you want to go watch, I fully encourage it, especially if you are, I don't even care if you're not a Patriots fan or a Tom Brady fan. If you're just like a sports fan in general, it was just very well done. He had his wife, Gisele Bündchen, on the show. We all know her as a former Victoria's Secret model. She still currently models. Julian Edelman, Rob Gronkowski. I really loved the episodes where he had his family. So like Tom actually had his sisters on and other family members, and being able to get to know Tom Brady as a kid and what he did prior to football and what made him the man that he is now. So I fully enjoyed being able to watch Tom alongside having his sisters and his wife. And yes, it was cool seeing Julian Edelman and Rob talk, but I enjoyed the more personal interviews. How did each special guest impact the importance of telling the story in each episode, Torey?
It's a great question, because I think that was one of the things that I was really excited about in the approach that Gotham and Eric and Religion of Sports was taking with Tom, and the way Tom wanted to do it as well. You know, Tom is an executive producer on the series, so his input was also important to the process in the way that it was approached. And I think the thing that became special and meaningful that was crafted through each episode was, you're not just hearing from Tom, but you're hearing from two very important characters, in some cases three, but for the most part, it's just two voices. And it was to really signify what he had learned on a personal level at that time, more so than what's on the field. Like, yes, every episode is about the Super Bowl journey, but as you watch the series, and Britt, I know you have, like, you kind of really get an insight into him that's never been seen before. I mean, I think social media or Twitter would say, oh, wow, Tom Brady's swearing all the time. But I think it was just, he was really raw in these interviews. And that's a credit to Gotham and to Tom to do that. And you saw a side of him that I think people suspected, that he was the competitor that he is, but he's also just an incredibly thoughtful and, you know, kind of caring guy that's trying to find out how to continue to be Tom Brady. And I think that was the eye-opening experience of the character selections for each episode really boiled down to where he was in his life. So in episode 1, you kind of get the Drew Bledsoe thing that everybody kind of knew what happened, but it's revealing how difficult it was for Drew and how meaningful it was for Tom. Later episodes, like surprise guests, like someone like a Vince Wilfork, who maybe you probably wouldn't have put as high on the list, but in the context of that time with the team, you know, Tom was the leader of the offense and Vince was the leader of the defense, and they had the 10-year drought of no Super Bowls. So they were trying to figure out how to get back there and beat the Seahawks ultimately. The biggest part of it being the personal, like you said, were some of my favorite episodes, his three sisters, and ultimately in the final episode, his father. So those things are really unique in the way that it was approached to capture these moments in Tom's life where he was really trying to figure out how to take the next step. And I think the other thing that always resonated with me as we were creating the series is there's 10 episodes, but there's only 7 Super Bowl wins. So 3 of them are losses. And, you know, so to go through that 07 season with Randy and Michael Strahan was eye-opening. I had never heard the story of Randy going to the hotel and asking him, I want to come play with you. So it was amazing when we'd get you know, it was amazing getting the rough cut before anybody else had seen it and seeing that scene play out and be like, this is incredible that this story exists. And I think that that's what made it special, was just those characters that were decided upon were really motivated about the emotional tone rather than the football tone sometimes.
Exactly. You said that perfectly. Being able to blend, yes, of course, it's a sports documentary at the base, but it's more like, I would say, a life documentary on Tom. And I feel like you guys, and again, you're hearing it from me, I'm not sure if this is true or not, you guys can continue to the series because so much to talk about with the Bucks. And I heard he's going to be signing a contract, or he did just sign a contract with like Fox Sports. He's going to be doing some sports analyst work after he retires. Like, this guy is like a Michael Jordan, like endless types of creativity. He's going to be around in the sports world forever, and we are looking forward to following his journey. And I think it's really interesting how you mentioned that Tom is actually an executive producer. That was actually going to be one of my questions. My direct question was actually, did Tom have a big say in the themes and episode content? You already answered that. And how did you guys all collaborate as a team? Obviously, working alongside Religion of Sports, you had ESPN, you had yourself, you had Tom, you had his family. Like, how the hell did you guys all sit down and be like, yo, like, these are only like hour or so long episodes. How do we cram in so much fantastic information and content into this? Like, I feel like each episode, Torey, could have been like 3 hours long, and I would have sat there and freaking watched it. Like, no bullshit. Like, I'm telling you, I was like that enthralled into it.
There was definitely times where things were really great, and it's just, how do we want to tell the story? And again, it's really credit to Gotham and to Religion of Sports and their creativity and the partnership. But I think there was so many times where we'd have discussions about, you know, how important a scene is, or how important this story beat is, or, you know, how do we want to craft this in and out of the emotional elements that Tom was sharing with everybody. You know, he was very raw and real. I mean, you see it in the final episode. He gets very emotional. And I think what was the line? He says, you know, like, oh, you started out with a banger there, because he's crying in the first 10 minutes of the episode talking about his father. And that was things that you couldn't anticipate would happen once he sat down with Gotham. So a lot of great discussions and a lot of just really, really talented people behind the scenes thinking about how to present this to the audience and doing it in a way that really was through Tom's voice and giving him the opportunity to share his story in a way that was honest and transparent, and gave him the ability to really relive these moments. I mean, the Super Bowl moments themselves could have just been a series, right? Like, they could have just been, all right, we're going to start with the Super Bowl and tell you how that game played out. And it still would have been exciting. So to have all the context and background and things that were going on in his life, you know, I mean, there's nothing shying away from him, what he's saying throughout the series. He was hell-bent on being the best. And that is a tough hill to climb and to stay on top of. So I hope people really enjoyed it in that way, and that the approach to the film with kind of the ethereal or the impressionistic moments that really give you an insight to like what's going on in his head or emotionally where he's at. I'm very proud of the way it came out, and really that's a credit to like Gotham.
And I don't want to give out too many details about obviously Man in the Arena, because I want people to go out and personally watch it, of course. You guys are now listening to my friend Torey Champagne, ESPN Plus freaking feature producer. He's crushing it in the sports world. started off doing music and all kinds of great stuff from Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm from Massachusetts. Torey and I met on a music video. Ironically, here we are like a decade later, collaborating on my podcast. Thank you again, Torey, for joining me. I would love to have you on here again sometime, talking about upcoming projects. Before we wrap up, though, I really want to talk about some of the cool special effects and editing in Man in the Arena. When Ryan and I were watching it, we thought it was really cool and interesting how at times they would cut in some animal clips and like special effects weather clips. And in my opinion, again, me being creative minded myself, to the everyday person just watching, they probably were like, why the heck are they doing this? But me being creative and knowing probably like why they were adding in those special features, to me, it kind of like added that extra element of not only surprise, but like it played to your emotion. So for example, if like Tom Brady was having a bad game or like they were losing, they would cut to a thunderstorm and you would be like, okay, cool. Like this is getting me in like the mindset of it's eerie, it's freaky. Like what's going to happen next? Are they going to win? Are they going to lose? One clip in particular, and it sticks out. I thought this was so freaking cool. They did a really up close shot of Tom Brady. It was literally just from like his chin up. And like when you're watching the screen, it's just his chin up and he has his helmet on. I think he's at Foxborough Stadium, but I could be wrong. But he's in his Patriots helmet. And as he's turning his head to the left, it's like a quick turn. There's like an owl head that cuts to it. And I thought that was so cool. It was almost like it might have been an owl or a hawk, but it made me think like, okay, Tom Brady with like his hawk eye view, like he knows where exactly he's going to throw the ball. And I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but I just want to say I thought that the special effects and the animals and like the weather cut-ins were freaking fantastic. So Torey, let me ask you, whose idea was to incorporate those special effects and what was the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, I mean, that's all credit to the vision of the team at Religion of Sports when they were kind of formulating the tonality of the series, right? Like, I mean, you've seen other sports documentaries that, and it was just a unique approach. The same thing with Tom sitting in front of just a stark white background. You know, they utilized that in a really unique way where they could put graphics aside of him. So as he's explaining a play, you would see the diagram of a play. And it was just really brilliant, creative work that, you know, Gotham, Eric, and that team was coming up with, and Alex, the editor. It was always exciting to see a rough cut where it wasn't there. And then we talk about it and what they were going to do, and we kind of hear some of those ideas like you're talking about with what we called kind of impressionistic footage, right? Where it's a thunderstorm to signify something, or you're referencing an owl, which would also just, you know, it's like it's his wisdom in that moment. Like, so there's these, you know, there's this subterranean level of visual suggestions to the audience that kind of allude to what Tom's thinking about or where he's at. And that was there from the start. They had that idea, believed in the approach, and I thought it was incredibly successful. And it was always exciting to see what they would do. And it's just a credit to another company that they work with, Elastic, out in Los Angeles, who's done title sequences and graphics for Aaron Hernandez doc. They've done tons of opening title sequences for many, 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 many films. And that entire team is incredibly collaborative and creative as well. So between those two parties and looking at a scene as just footage or an interview, they were able to elevate the visual experience into something that was really unique in the sports world. Like, just hadn't seen that done really before. I think every filmmaker tries to approach their craft differently, and I just thought, you know, Gotham and the team really found and unlocked something unique.
Yes, it definitely was super unique. And I fully enjoyed it. And I'm not just saying this because I have you on here, but we do enjoy sports documentaries a lot. I've watched a ton of them. And we actually, ironically enough, love to watch things on like National Geographic with like animals and stuff. So it's like we kind of got the best of both worlds. It's like we're watching Tom Brady, we're learning about the sports, learning about his family. We got some animal clips. I'm like, hopefully there's more episodes that come out. Before we wrap up the show, this will be my very last question regarding Man in the Arena. And it's more so directed towards you, I guess. And you kind of already answered this question a little bit, but what exactly did you learn from being on set? And what did you enjoy most about being a part of this team? Again, you kind of already lightly touched upon both of those answers, but to kind of sum it all up, what did you learn the most and what did you enjoy the most?
A couple of moments that were really, you know, that were fun. Like we created all this other content. Like I said, like we had a very, very ambitious and broad vision for not just the series, but building a universe around the series. So like I said, the magazine, the podcast, even the NFT that came out a couple of weeks ago, to be part of all of that, knowing that we were going to create things like that was really unique to any series. It's a first for ESPN that we did a collaboration on an NFT with Tom, with Autograph. So I'm like incredibly proud to have been part of that process creatively, because those things were part of the process 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, really, when we filmed with Tom for some of those things. You know, being able to work with Tom directly on set for a lot of the promotional and feature stuff that we were doing around it was great. But again, like, you get an opportunity to work with incredibly talented and creative people. You kind of build a relationship with them that you're going to remember forever. We're all really proud, and I'm actually really excited because I'm finally going to I've seen them, but we also made this during the pandemic, so it was also very hard in some ways to be super collaborative because we were all doing, had to be mindful of COVID and had to work from home and do other things, and travel was limited. Fortunately, we're very lucky that Man in the Arena is nominated for an Emmy, and the Emmys are in a week, so I'll be able to see everybody in person again at the Emmys, and fingers crossed for the series. So that's incredibly exciting, and I think that that's the thing I take away the most is, like, you're never gonna. The work was hard and long, but like, you'll never replace a 2-year journey with Tom Brady. Like, you can't. I don't know if there's something that's gonna. I hope there's something is exciting coming for me, and these teams in the future, but. Man, I just, like I said, like, the word humbled and honored kind of always resonate, because just what a project to be a part of.
Well, best of luck to you and essentially the whole team. I hope you guys take home that Emmy. Again, it's a fantastic docuseries. If you guys have not watched it, please feel free to go ahead and do so. I actually haven't even watched episode 10 yet, only because I don't think it's released on Hulu yet. Ryan and I keep looking to see if it's popping up. So hopefully it pops up soon, as we're anxiously awaiting for episode 10 to drop on there. And speaking of your future, what other projects are you currently working on? And again, thank you so much for sharing so much info about behind the scenes working on Man in the Arena. But yeah, what other projects are you working on? What do you have going on this upcoming summer and into the fall?
To be perfectly honest, my wife is expecting, so I have a little one on the way soon. So we're going to take a little bit of time there to be with family and be with our new one. Father, my third child. Incredibly excited. So doing that, but also I've been working on and continue to work on a series called Banana Land, about the Savannah Bananas. It's a minor league baseball team. For those of you that are very heavily on TikTok, you've probably heard of them. You've seen they're changing the rules of baseball. It's almost like the circus meets baseball, and it's really telling their rise and their story. So we've been working on that, and it was just announced that it's coming out this summer. So excited to see that come to fruition. That's the next thing for ESPN Plus Originals.
Congrats to you and your wife. That is awesome.
Thank you.
Very exciting to be adding to the family. And I don't know how old your kids are, but do you have any plans to teach them about producing and directing? Or are you going to kind of like let them go with the flow and see what they're interested in when they get older? How does that work? I mean, I don't have kids yet, but Ryan and I always have the discussion. We're like, when we have kids, do we want to kind of guide them to be creative like we are and get into sports? Or we just kind of like let them do what we want? Like, what is your mindset on parenting, I guess?
Oh man, this is my favorite topic. I am like so so blessed to have a 14-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old daughter, and about to have a little boy. So I'm about to get some of that dude energy back in my life. But I'm incredibly proud of my daughters. They're both competitive dancers, which just a supportive dance dad. And that way my wife really is the one who helms that. They just took to it. So, just being supportive. I got a flight on Sunday morning, but I'll be at a dance competition until 11 p.m. this Saturday. So every opportunity I get to be with my kids and support them and what their dreams are, like, I try to do that. I'm such a sap, Britt. I really am. I am a total sap for my kids. But it's been awesome in the sense that there are times now that my older daughter is 14, she's really kind of understanding what I do. Most of the time she's like, yeah, dad does I don't know, he made some show. You know what I mean? Like, she knows what it is, but she doesn't care. You know what I mean? She's more interested in, can we go get ice cream, or can we hang out and go to the beach? And seeing your kids find their own way is just incredibly exciting. You picked the wrong topic to bring up at the end, because I'll just riff on my kids forever, because I'm just so proud.
Well, I'm glad I brought that up. I think that's awesome. And again, it goes with kind of like the Tom Brady situation, like learning about the behind the scenes with the kids, the wife, like where you grew up, like that kind of makes you who you are as a man, right? Having the supportive kids, having the outlet to go to the dance competitions, having your supportive wife. I'm sure that makes your career a little bit easier, especially when you're traveling and stuff like that.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, my wife is the strongest person I've ever met. She has been incredibly supportive, you know, over the years. I'm happy to share that she's so supportive. We got married, and 2 days later, instead of a honeymoon, I was on a shoot because she knew it was important to the project and she knew how much it meant to me. And she's always been the most supportive person and just like a great mom that holds it down all the time. And that's while being a career woman herself. She's an interior designer. So, you know, I'm incredibly fortunate. My wife Tasha has just been super supportive and also a big Boston sports fan. So we get out to games when we can, and you know, there's always sports on in the house. But she's always there. You know, she's my number one fan and just always helping me make it a reality and let me get to do what I need to do for work or follow these passion projects. So word of advice: go out, whoever your partner is, being supportive of them and their dreams. It goes a long way, and we've been able to manage doing that with two amazing kids in the process as well. So I think that while I'm very proud of the series, I'm more proud of that. I think every day that I get to still be dad.
Awesome. That's like a fantastic way to wrap up this episode. And I just, again, want to thank you so much. I know you're a busy man, you're a husband, you're a producer, you're a director, you're a father, you do all of the things. Again, I would love to have you back on here, maybe sometime this fall, talk about some of the other projects that you have coming out. Again, my BosBabes fanatics love not just hearing from my guests once. I like to call this like an audible reality TV show where I like to have my guests on multiple times to keep up with people's lives. Again, I have a reality TV show background and I love being open, real, and raw. And I love to have my guests be the same. So I appreciate you coming on. Please, if you don't mind, shout out your social media. Where can people follow you and your projects that you have going on? I know you're not a big social media person. You don't post that often, but in the event that somebody wants to see what you're up to, where can they follow you?
Sure. My Instagram's at Torey Champagne, just my name. But yeah, hit me up if you're interested, or if you want to collaborate, or if you're looking for advice, hit me up anytime. Reach out. But Britt, thanks for having me. It's really great to see you, and thank you so much for reaching out. This has been awesome. And next time though, if you have me on, we gotta talk a little bit more about back in the day. Okay, like we got to get into your stuff because I watched your rise too. So
we definitely will.